Good morning, everybody. Sorry about the late start here. My name is Barry Rubin. On behalf of Nebraskans for Jobs and Energy Independence, we thank you for joining us this morning. Nebraskans for Jobs and Energy Independence is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization representing over 28,000 Nebraskans statewide. We support the development and utilization of energy resources to ensure America's energy security, jobs for Nebraskans, and a stable consumer price situation. We strive to reduce our reliance on oil from antagonistic and unstable nations and to balance our energy needs with environmental and conservation goals, diversifying our energy resources. In short, we support an all-of-the-above approach. The people who have joined us here today will give you a short overview of the testimony that will be presented today before the Natural Resources Committee hearing. The Keystone XL Pipeline project has a broad base of support because of the high-paying jobs it will provide, the significant economic impact it will have here in Nebraska, and the fact that it will allow America to begin meeting its energy needs with supply from our allies rather than our enemies. Joining us here this morning and also testifying today, we won't hear from everybody, but we'll ask you to come up. We have Michael Whatley, Executive Vice President of the Consumer Energy Alliance, Robert Jones, Vice President, TransCanada Keystone Pipelines, Andy Black, Association of Oil Pipelines, Ron Kaminsky, Labor's Union Local 1140 Business Manager, Mark Whitehead, start from point, the Nebraska Petroleum Marketers and Convenience Store Operators, Mr. John McCollister from the Platt Institute for Economic Research, Tom Hesbitt, former Superintendent of the Nebraska State Patrol, Joe Herring from the American for Prosperity, John Keene from the Southern Public Power District, and also a professor at Hastings College, Kirk Carlson, who's a landowner in Hamilton, Barrett County, along the proposed Keystone XL Pipeline route, and my friend Dan Gunderson from the American Petroleum Institute. I'd first like to ask, we're going to hear briefly again from a few folks now. We'll take questions afterwards, and a short Q&A, and then you can also have the opportunity to interview folks individually outside the room here. I'll ask Andy Black from the AOPL to come up first.
Good morning. I'm Andy Black, President and CEO of the Association of Oil Pipelines in Washington. Pipelines have long been the most safest, efficient, reliable, and preferred way to move crude oil and refined petroleum. Safer than rail, safer than truck, safer than barge, as transportation statistics confirm. This safety leadership will continue as new construction, inspection, and maintenance practices and a dedication to continuous improvement. The AOPL encourages the Nebraska legislature to use significant caution on oil pipeline siting. Any revisions should allow needed infrastructure to be developed under an equitable process. AOPL members compete with each other and will compete with Keystone XL, but they all agree on here today. Any pipeline proposal should have fair and predictable regulatory review. AOPL believes any siting legislation should be prospective only. Bills should not affect any project that has relied upon existing state laws or been subject to substantial federal environmental review. Adopting legislation at the 11th hour would be discriminatory, punitive, and vulnerable to legal challenge. AOPL encourages Nebraska to not violate the letter or spirit of constitutional protections against the enactment of ex post facto laws. No siting bill, like LB1, designed to retroactively target a project developed in reliance upon existing state laws would be fair, appropriate, or legally sound. Businesses that rely on state laws need to know a commercial enterprise will not be disrupted due to last-minute changes in those laws. Projects needing a presidential permit are subject to extensive studies of alternative routes which must comply with stringent environmental requirements. Once the process results in a specific route and a final federal environmental impact statement, any action by a state to change the law for that project undermines the national interest determination process. AOPL encouraged the legislature to avoid the dramatic expansion in scope in some of the recently introduced bills. While some earlier bills singled out Keystone XL, some of the newer bills, including LB1, would drag even minor projects into a new bureaucratic net designed to catch just one project. This not only affects expansions to bring fuels here to Nebraska and the region, but also threatens important line replacements planned for safety purposes. We discourage changes to safe siting laws as a disguised attempt to regulate pipeline safety. Federal safety laws and regulations protect the citizens of Nebraska and other Americans, with special attention required near aquifers and other sensitive areas. And these cannot be. Finally, I'd like to discuss the safety aspects of the Keystone XL project. New pipelines are constructed with high-quality steel with modern technologies and practices under comprehensive regulations. Keystone XL will comply with 57 additional safety conditions that go beyond existing requirements in an extra measure of safety. It was the federal government, not TransCanada or OPO, that said Keystone XL will have a degree of safety above any other pipeline constructed in the current or previous code. In conclusion, we encourage the legislature to consider any siting changes deliberately and to apply them not only prospectively, but wisely. Thank you.
John McAllister, Flight Institute for Economic Research.
Thank you very much. My name is John McAllister, and I'm the Executive Director of the Platt Institute for Economic Research from Nebraska to support the construction of the Keystone XL Pipeline along the current proposed route. The Governor's call for a special session, the passage of legislation which asserts state jurisdiction over the Keystone XL Pipeline could very well derail the multi-billion-dollar project, multi-state project, and put the state in a precarious legal position. Such an action could be unconstitutional under the Commerce Clause, which gives the federal government the authority to regulate international and international trade. The action also potentially violates the Constitution and federal law, which could subject the state to an endless amount of legislation. It is clear that the intent of this bill is to put safety regulations and responsibility into the hands of the state. However, because the pipeline crosses the Canadian border, approval of the route rests with the State Department and the President under the auspices of the Federal Pipeline Safety Act. Accordingly, the State Department conducted a comprehensive environmental review, evaluated alternative routes, and concluded that the current route is environmentally safe. These studies constitute preemption by the federal government, meaning that because the route is now under federal jurisdiction, the state cannot legally interfere. The bill would also create a significant burden on the XL Pipeline project by requiring a certification process by the Public Service Commission. This new requisite could delay the project so significantly that the project would die. But this bill is unconstitutionally infirm due to its incursion into the areas of preemption and violation of the Interstate Commerce Act. In Nebraska alone, over 7,500 jobs would be created if the pipeline is built. And in our current economic climate, we should be creating as many jobs as possible. Additionally, building the pipeline would inject over $465 million into the state's economy, increasing personal income by $314 million and enhancing state and local tax revenues by $11 million. Building a pipeline would increase Nebraska's gross state project by an estimated $390 million. These jobs are not transitory construction jobs. Maintenance of the pipeline will ensure that jobs remain long after construction is completed. And property taxes would be paid to support local communities along the pipeline's route. The oil transported by this pipeline and refined in the United States will replace oil imported from hostile foreign countries. There is no economic incentive for the oil transported by this pipeline to go anywhere but to the American consumer. The Ogallala Aquifer and the Sandhills will not be harmed by the Keystone XL Pipeline, and the nation's economy will receive a boost. Building the Keystone XL Pipeline is good for Nebraska and good for America.